According to sensitive Russian documents obtained by an European intelligence agency, the Kremlin is trying to engineer German public opinion and German election results to be sympathetic to Russia and hostile to Ukraine and its Western allies. The documents reportedly reveal how Kremlin officials are working to bring together two very unlikely bedfellows, Germany's far-right party known as the AfD and Germany's extreme left party known as the Linke. Now, the Washington Post has reviewed this trove of Russian documents and conducted interviews with people close to both political parties. The Post reports that the documents record meetings between Kremlin officials and Russian political strategists, and that the Kremlin has ordered for the strategists to focus on Germany to build anti-war sentiment in Europe and to dampen support for Ukraine. It goes on to report the aim of a new political formation, according to a document dated back September 9th, would be to win a majority of elections at any level in Germany and to reset the AfD to boost its standing beyond the 13% that the party was polling at the time. And one of the reporters who wrote today's Washington Post article is Catherine Belton. She joins me now from right here in Berlin. Catherine, it's good to have you on the program. I just want to clarify for our viewers, the documents that you and your colleagues have reviewed, these documents, they're not connected to this most recent Discord leak of classified documents, right?
No, they're completely separate. They were obtained by a European intelligence agency and shared with us, and they're completely unrelated to the Discord links.
Okay,
yes.
So we're talking about a completely different trove, and they do focus on these two parties, the left party, the Linke, and the AfD, the Alternative for Germany, which is the far-right party in Germany. We reached out to both of those parties today. So far, we haven't heard back. I mean, have you received any reaction from those parties with this story?
We reached out for comment. So the AfD co-leader Tino Kruppala, but they both declined to comment. We were also in touch with Sahra Wagenknecht, who's the renegade Linke leader, who the Kremlin is apparently most interested in forging in a union with the far right. She did respond to us, and she did say that on no terms would she have any official union with AfD. But on the other hand, now she is openly mulling forming her own new party, leaving the Linke, and it's very widely predicted that part of her support base would be members of the AfD.
And you mentioned Sahra Wagenknecht. She is arguably the best known member of the left party, the Linke, here in Germany. And reading your article and what you and your colleagues have deduced here, can we say that of anyone, she really is the face of Russian attempts to engineer German politics and German public opinion in favor of Russia? Can we say that?
I think she's on her way to becoming that. Certainly, she has a very high profile right now. She led the anti-war protest on February the 25th when she sort of joined with other kind of leading peaceniks to try and to lead a protest against the war. But in that protest, certainly the side that she took was very clearly pro-Russian. She was talking about the links the Ukrainian leadership had with the neo-Nazi movement. She said she condemned the bloodshed, but never once did she really speak about Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which is what started the whole thing in the first place. And she spoke very emotively about, the great fear of being embroiled in a great war again. And she was really playing on German fears of dating back to the Cold War of sort of being involved in kind of a nuclear standoff. But she's very skilled in how she speaks, and really she's very strongly on a pro-Russian side.
There has been a lot of criticism of Germany since the Russian invasion of Ukraine began, that Germany was dragging its feet in terms of sending weapons to Ukraine. Also, though, that the general attitude in German society, particularly among German lawmakers, was one that wanted to give the Kremlin the benefit of the doubt. There is this latent pro-Kremlin sentiment circulating here in political Berlin. Based on what you're seeing in these documents, can we say that that is indeed the case?
I think, well, based on the documents, I mean, the documents really basically show that the Kremlin officials gave orders to a group of political strategists working with the Kremlin to focus on Germany as the kind of base for efforts to weaken support in Europe for Ukraine and to try and sap support for weapons deliveries. I think Germany was seen as a weak link, but also the most important link because of its role in sending tanks and so on to Ukraine. And I think, yes, I think that Russia has been very much counting on this sort of latent support for Russia. You know, there's been decades of German politicians believing that sort of in a relationship with Russia and close trade relations. And I think this has long been existing, but it exists most of all within these elements of Die Linke with Sahra Wagenknecht, who obviously she began her career as a communist and has ever since kind of taken a pro-Russian line, and also within the far-right party, the AfD, and we know its members travel frequently to Russia, and according to the document trove, very often these trips are all expenses paid by the Kremlin.
And Catherine, we have heard from many analysts, also from the Pentagon, for example, that the strategy, the policy, the thinking of Vladimir Putin is the long look. Just wait it out. The West will tire of this war, then their unity will begin to fall apart. But you're reporting, what you are seeing and suggesting here is that that's not true, that the Kremlin is not passively waiting for Western unity to fall apart, that it is actively meddling and trying to re-engineer the way it is perceived.
Well, you know, I think the Kremlin here, this is a very important element. In fact, in its war, there's not just a war going on among the armies on the military front. There's not just a military battle, but it's also a battle for hearts and minds. And this is a hidden front in the war in which the Kremlin is reverting to tactics it first deployed in the Soviet days. In Soviet times, the KGB also used the peace movement to undermine support for NATO, to undermine support for the West. It certainly led then also with peace protests in Germany against the placing of the Pershing missiles in West Germany. And some of the people involved in the protests now with Sahra Wagenknecht are the same as we saw then. And so, you know, Putin began as a KGB officer in Dresden. He knows these tactics very well, and we can certainly see these documents that they're deploying the same tactics now, because I think, you know, of course, Putin believes that time is on his side, but he also has an opportunity because they have long-standing relationships with politicians in Germany and elsewhere that they can leverage trying to undermine support further. And it's certainly the case. So Germany last year kind of weathered the storm. They were able to diversify energy supplies in time. There wasn't a cold and freezing winter as Russia predicted. But now they're seeking to leverage discontent over rising prices. I mean, last year, Germany had cheap Russian gas in its storage facilities right up till the summer. This year, it's having to pay more expensive prices for alternative supplies all year, and German businesses become increasingly disgruntled.
Kev, let me just play devil's advocate here. Someone reading this could say, you know, what's the big deal here? U.S. intelligence has told us that Russia meddled in the 2016 and the 2020 U.S. presidential elections. So reading that it's meddling in German politics may not be shocking, but is the real shocker here the fact that the Kremlin has started the policy that directly or tries to directly influence the men and women in parliament who have real political power? Isn't that what is so shocking about this story?
Yeah, I think we know that the Kremlin meddles in or tries to meddle in politics across the West, but I think we've never seen it so clearly portrayed before. I mean, the documents clearly show how these political strategists were called into the Kremlin, given the order to focus on Germany and far right, and also drew up slogans and timetables for protests against the government last year. You can really see their hand very actively in this. And I guess for the Kremlin, it's really crucial that they shore up their support politically in Europe, just because, I mean, it's crucial for them that Western support for Ukraine does wane. They want to see the West weapons supplies fall off, because otherwise Russia will have less chance to hold on to the territory.
Catherine Belton with the Washington Post. Catherine, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and to talk about your reporting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.